सो ऑलरेडी दोघं जण कोणीतरी गौतम राज चंद्रशेखर आणि तुषार चितळे यांनी ऑलरेडी जॉईन केलंय तिथे.
ओके, तर तू आधी शेअर कर, मग त्याच्यानंतर मी शेअर करतो. चलो, ओके, बाय बाय, सी यू.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So I think we are waiting for a few more to join. So we'll start the presentation in next 5 minutes. So good evening, everyone. I think we can start now. So welcome, Sripad. Hello, Sripad. Am I audible?
Hear me now?
Yeah, I can.
Oh, okay.
So Sripad, you can see my screen right now, correct?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I think good evening, everyone. Let's start this exciting Industry 4.0 solutions webinar series. So today's topic, what we will be talking about is uh, what is the importance of Industry 4.0 assessment, why it has to be done, how to set the roadmap uh, while implementing the Industry 4.0. Just before we start, uh, I would like to introduce Elansol Technologies. So Elansol Technologies is a startup company. We started this company in November 2020, and we have been helping our customers to improve their plant operations, implement the latest technologies which can help them to solve the real life problems and get more benefits out of by implementing multiple technologies. So we are a sales channel partner of Wistron, which is a US based company, and we are also a sales channel partner of a company called as Vocal Zoom, which is an Israel based company. uh, so we believe in partnerships. We believe in talking to multiple people. We believe in interactions, and we believe in consortium to provide appropriate solutions uh, to our customers. So I would like to have a one-to-one discussion with all the interested customers to implement Industry 4.0, and uh, let's see if we can how we can collaborate with each other. So moving further, I would like to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Sripad Lade, who is a founder and director of Managestrix Consulting LLP. Welcome, Sripad. So we are glad to have you here, and we are very keen to listen uh, listen from you.
Thank you, Chetan. I'm not sure if my video is enabled, but I think if you can see me, then we're good.
It is visible. Yes.
Okay.
So,
Thank you very much.
Sripad, just give me a couple of minutes so I can introduce you to the audience, and then I can hand over the dice to you. Yeah. So Sripad is a very senior person, industry veteran with more than 33 years of experience working in working for providing solutions for the manufacturing digitization, and building and rolling out various manufacturing IT solutions. Sripad comes with a huge background working with various verticals like oil and gas, power, food and beverages, life sciences, etc., etc. So I would not limit that to whatever is written on the screen. And just the cherry on the top, I would say Sripad is a certified Siri assessor. So he is a perfect person who can help us and who can help everyone help everyone for the journey of Industry 4.0. So Sripad, over to you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks. If you can enable my sharing.
I already have. So I will be turning off my video. Just to save the bandwidth, and I would encourage everyone, if they have any questions in between the session, they can post in the Q&A section, so we can have a discussion after Sripad have finished the presentation, so Sripad can answer your questions.
Okay. Okay. So hello everyone. Thank you very much for joining, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity to collaborate with Elansol Technologies. Thanks, Chetan, for setting up this webinar series and for inviting me for this session. I'm unfortunately not able to see anybody, so maybe that's my privileges in the meeting. So I can see only myself. So unfortunately, all of you are invisible to me. But please feel free to raise a hand, and Chetan will see it, and he will pass on. He'll probably unmute you so that you can ask me a question. So let's talk a little bit about I mean, this session is obviously importance of Industry 4.0 assessment. But see, one of the reasons why I thought this might be a relevant topic is that there are many webinars that are going on about Industry 4.0 and what Industry 4.0 means, and what are the various technologies. Everybody likes to talk about AR, VR, ML, AI, 3D printing, lots of these technologies. I thought it might be helpful to share with you guys, how do you walk that path? I mean, when you start walking that path, you will encounter these technologies and these solutions, and they will deliver this benefit. But how do you start on the journey? That might be something that everybody might be interested in. So I decided to create this this content for you. So hopefully it will help. And okay, let's get on with it. So a little bit about background. Everybody knows what Industry 4.0, otherwise you would not have attended this session. But just to get on the same page, Industry 4.0 is defined as the fourth industrial revolution after the first three that happened in the 1800s, 1900s, and 2000s. And the distinguishing characteristics of the earlier three revolutions were that the first one led to a quantum jump or a nonlinear jump in industrial output because of the use of steam power. And in the second one led to another jump in the industrial output because of electricity, because electricity is much easier to convey to various parts of your organization instead of a big steam engine that is powering one single conveyor belt or one single large machine. It is much easier to distribute electricity. So that power that was achieved by steam was now available to every corner of the organization, and that led to another non-linear jump in industrial output. The third output, the first two industrial revolutions actually disengaged the industrial output from our human capacity. So the strongest need not win. Earlier, before the first industrial revolution, the stronger the person is, the more work he could do. Steam power and electricity disconnected this. But the third industrial revolution went one step further, and it disconnected the person itself, not just his physical capacity, but himself. And now you could have things that were happening in an automated manner, and you just program it, and that it basically led to another jump in the industrial output. And after every industrial output, invariably plateaued out, which started people on the thought process of what to do next. And that's how these things happen. The output of the third industrial revolution has already started to plateau out. And so there is only so much incremental benefit you can get by doing more and more of the same. So people started thinking about this. And that led to the conviction that one of the biggest levers in industrial output is information. And so that the information and the leverage of information is the foundation of the fourth industrial revolution, and we'll see that in the slides to come. A little bit about little bit of detail about Industry 4.0. So the term was first coined in 2011 in Germany, in Hannover Messe, where Hannover Messe is responsible for sort of revealing a lot of technologies to the world. In 2011, this was the term that was given, and Klaus Schwab, who is the executive chairman of World Economic Forum, actually formalized what Industry 4.0 meant in a book called The Fourth Industrial Revolution. It's available on Amazon, so if any of you guys are, you should read that book. It's an amazing book. And one of the reasons why I like that book is it's not about just technology. It's about the effect of such a revolution on the society. It will change the way we live our lives, and it's very, very well written. The key principle of the fourth industrial revolution was to integrate the physical and digital world. We've seen this in science fiction movies for several years, but it's now happening that it will be what you think as humans and human cognition, and what aid you get from an external system like a cyber system is now going to be integrated, and it will greatly enhance the capacity of the humans to think. That is the whole principle. Now at a structure level, it is now Industry 4.0 is very well structured. So it has 6 operating principles, which are given here: interoperability, decentralization, service orientation, and so on and so forth. And it has 9 technologies that are there to enable the operating principles. Now, these 9 technologies are really the rock stars actually of the Industry 4.0, because everybody seems to know them. Everybody knows robotics, everybody knows AI, everybody knows ML, cloud computing. So these 9 technologies have been getting a lot of a lot of bandwidth and a lot of place in the sunshine. But behind that are these principles that need to be enabled, with the one final goal of creating smart factories. So our end goal, Industry 4.0's end goal, is to create a factory that is self-aware. That means it knows that it is a factory producing something. It can compare itself with either other factories, or it can compare itself with industry benchmark and realize that it is not producing, uh, not doing its best. It should be able to self-predict, how it would do tomorrow, or it should be able to self-predict what will happen if such and such thing happens. It should be able to predict what will happen if this machine goes down, what will happen if this material does not reach me in time. That factory or that system in the factory should be able to predict that. Should be able to cooperate with other entities and other factories. So if there is a vendor that is supplying material to another vendor, then these two entities should collaborate with each other and tune their work processes in such a way so that they don't take any actions that are independent of each other, and they should be self-organizing and self-maintaining. So this is the final goal of any smart factory. You can imagine that earlier 3 industrial revolutions lasted for 100 years, and we are in 2022. This is probably started about 10 years ago, just the thought process. So it will be quite some time before we reach this final goal, but I think we are definitely seeing signs that we are moving in the right direction. Then, so we talk about in Industry 4.0, we talk about enhancing maturity of the organization, making the organization all those things, self-aware, self-comparing, self-predicting. It is the organization that needs to walk that journey. But what you're basically we are talking is that we are improving the maturity of the organization. But how do you define maturity? Now, if you look at all these statements on the left hand side, that improve the equipment availability and utilization of a factory, or material efficiency. Material shouldn't be lying around. Moment it comes, it should be consumed, so that the material turnaround is very turnovers are very quick. Manual data entry should be avoided. So all these statements that you read here, they're all well accepted. Everybody agrees with these statements very violently. In general, everybody agrees that we have to make operations cheaper, faster, smarter, and there could be a few more adjectives that I know a lot of you guys can think about. Okay. Now, maturity is defined as the ability to do all this, whatever is written on the left hand side, in a repeatable manner and without dependence on people. You can achieve almost each and every one of the items on the left hand side by what we call personal heroism. Maybe you are blessed with an awesome team. Maybe there is one guy who is just fantastic. Maybe there is a vendor that is your partner is doing very well, and is collaborating very well. But all that does not mean that the organization is mature. The organization is mature if the systems are in place so that all the things on the left hand side are almost ensured. And if they don't happen, obviously there will be there will be alerts and there will be notifications, and people will know that this is not happening, and people will be able to take corrective action based on what the system itself suggests. So that is what we typically define as organizational maturity, maybe at least for the purpose of this webinar. There could be better definitions. Okay. So now, if you drill down into maturity one level deeper, then we can divide it into 3 categories: maturity of the process, maturity of technology, and maturity of the organization. This segregation is very important to understand, because most people, when you look at maturity, they very predominantly focus on the technology maturity, because for everybody, maturity means, okay, buy the most sophisticated hardware, buy the most sophisticated software, and so on and so forth. But there is, before that, it is like, if you have a weak process, digitizing it will only accelerate its bad impact. So you cannot improve a bad process by just digitizing it. That is absolutely true statement. Okay. So a process maturity is a definition of how things are done at the definition level itself, how you say you will do things. Okay, that itself needs to improve, and those things have to be made more streamlined and things like that. Only then technology can make it faster, easier, less error prone, and so on and so forth. Second thing is, how repeatable are the things that you do? If you're manufacturing something, how repeatable is the manufacturing done? How person dependent is the process? Is it, will it work because this one person is there, and it will not work if this person leaves, or it is so well defined that anybody can walk in and do the same thing exactly that way, and that these are just three things. There could be 20 other things in this list. Okay. Now, technology maturity is, now we are familiar with, is how do you enable these things that you have defined? How do you enable them with technology? So technology is only going to help you do these things that you have already defined. If they're not defined, technology is not going to. How technology can help these, and what are the points at which you have implemented technology so that these left hand side things are achieved. And the last one probably is the most ignored aspect of organizational maturity. You cannot, I mean, all of us have, some of us may be fortunate enough to have lived in a joint family, and you would have seen that whenever a new gadget comes in the house, it could be a smartphone, it could be a programmable remote, it could be, in my house it is, the set top box that Reliance Geo has sent me. Look at it and look at the way all the people adopt that technology, and you will see that there's a marked difference between the way that technology is adopted by the children of the house, the parents of the house, and the grandparents of the house. The children of the house are probably fastest to pick up. I mean, I've known kids that are 3 4 years old that can, switch on a TV and quickly navigate to a Nickelodeon channel. They don't even they cannot even read that numbers on the remote, but he has mastered that process, or he or she has mastered the process. Okay, the parents will have a very cautioned approach, and they will master some things they will say I don't want. And the grandparents, more often than not, will basically say, no, this is not for me, I will not use it. It doesn't matter how much value it potentially delivers to me, I don't want to learn this new thing. And I have some people in my family very close to me, and they are all smart people. They're not stupid. It's just that their acceptance of these technologies is very, very low. Now, think of your organization exactly the same way. I have seen several times, people telling me that there was a problem for the customer. I solved the problem. The software or the solution is working, but it is not being used. Whenever you heard that statement that it was successfully deployed, there's no problem with the software, but it is not being used, it has become what is called shelfware, then it is an indication, it is a symptom that says that the organizational maturity was not targeted to improve specifically. You have imposed a high-tech environment onto an organization that has a low-tech mindset. Okay? So that's what overall maturity, and these are the three things that we need to consider when you want to improve the organizational maturity. And this is all the more important because Industry 4.0 is very, very disruptive and very expensive. So unless you do it in a proper manner, you're all set to waste a whole lot of money and a whole lot of time. Okay? So what maturity is not? Sometimes when we see an immature organization, and that is why I gave the example of my family, if my grandmother does not use a smartphone, she likes the button phone. Okay, that doesn't mean she is stupid. Okay, it is not a value judgment on a person, and similarly, low maturity should not be a value judgment on the organization. Some of the examples is, the first one, I am from Pune, I am from Maharashtra, that is why I've given this example. I'm sure a Kanchivaram sari environment would be very similar, or there would be many other in other parts of India. So this is the Paithani sari of Yevla. Okay, it is at the top of its business. It is a sari that is supposed to, like Kanchipuram, also supposed to fit in the matchbox. Uh, Awesome business, very very high end craftsmanship. Okay, but very low maturity. Okay, you look at this person, is there is no electronic work instruction that is telling this person, there is no automation here. Okay, maturity will be low, but that doesn't mean the business is bad. Or just as not using a smartphone doesn't mean that my mother or is the island of Murano near Italy. So they excel at making this awesome glass artifacts by hand. Okay, but their maturity will be low because it's a craftsman business. The left hand side is also craftsman. To show you is the example of a Kumiko panel from Japan, where each these little pieces of wood are cut and cut at specific lengths and specific angles so that they just press fit into each other. In a Kumiko panel, there is never this. These panels, literally thousands and thousands of these sticks are just holding each other by being by pressure in order to make such awesome designs. But maturity of this will be low. So I think the main point I'm saying is, do not consider an organization's value by its maturity. Maturity and value are completely two different things. And sometimes a lower maturity is the reason why that organization is doing whatever it is doing. Okay? So now let's come to the how part. Okay, so how do you improve maturity? How do you go about improving maturity? Now, several companies, and maybe it's not any of the big companies, not people who have done a formal taken a formal approach, but many companies tend to look at improve maturity improvement as a piecemeal approach. Oh, everybody has an ERP. Okay, I need an ERP. Everybody has this system or that system, or everybody impressed. Customers are impressed with what the vendors show them, and with good reason. I mean, vendors are showing them awesome things, so it is logical that they will be impressed, and they will make a decision to go for it. Then many times competitors do it, so we need to do it. Then industry forums will exalt. I mean, for instance, I'm an industry forum in this case, so I'm exalting the virtues of a particular method, and you are impressed with what I'm talking, so you say, okay, let me do that. And then sometimes it is, last but not least, is internal passions. There are guys in the organization who says, I want to introduce machine learning, I want to introduce artificial intelligence, and that passion, sometimes work, and probably many times work. Okay? It is not that if you have this as the basis of your choice, it is going to be a disaster. It is not necessarily going to be a disaster. All perspective about you. Only you know, as an organization, only you know how you are structured, what are your of your people, what is the culture of your company, all that only you know. So it is, we make these decisions based on an
Yes, Ripat, sorry to interrupt. I think your voice is breaking off in
oh,
between.
sorry.
Chetan here. So I think your voice is breaking off in between. So
Okay, is it okay? Okay, 1 minute. Let me switch the connection. Let me switch the connection.
You guys, thank you for your patience. I think let's wait for a couple of minutes so Sripat can join back.
You hear me now?
Yes, Sripat, you're back. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, we are going to Industry 4.0. We need to master Industry 2.0 first. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Hopefully you didn't lose.
you need
Yes.
to share
Yes.
your screen one more time.
Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. So hopefully you can see me now.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
It,
Sorry about that, people.
guys,
So,
thank you
yeah.
thank you for your patience.
No problem. By the way, I don't know where you missed me. Did uh, is this was this slide complete?
I think last couple of minutes, your voice started breaking off.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I'll just repeat or give a summary of this. So the point is that whenever we embark on an Industry 4.0 journey, I think it is important to all the things on the left hand side which are typically done are all good. I mean, they are not wrong. It is just that they are somebody else's perspective on your. It's not your internal perspective. See, everyone doesn't know how your company internally ticks. Vendors don't know how your company ticks. Competitors don't know how your company ticks. It is not about making the same product. It is not about being in the same city. It is about what is the organizational culture, what is the leadership style of the leader of the company. All those things are internally known. So it is very important that that journey is done on the basis of an internal evaluation rather than all the external factors that the left hand side actually shows. So one of the ways of doing this is doing an organizational assessment. So Smart Industry Readiness Index, or SIRI, is one of the models that attempts to do that, and it is actually quite a recent model. Maybe 2 years ago, it was released to the market, and it is actually gaining quite a bit of popularity. It was created by Singapore Economic Development Board, which is called EDB, and now it is owned by a non-profit organization called Insight. Okay, it was done in collaboration with McKinsey, SAP, Siemens, Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, and TUV Sud of Singapore. So these are the people who spent actually several years to build that model, and the purpose of the model is to give you this very very important internal view of the organization. How are you doing internally, and what's your own DNA. Okay, so we'll see a little bit about how to do this assessment and what its value is based on this model. Okay, so now one of the most important thing that is good about Siri, which won't happen if you go in a very intuitive manner or jump into any Industry 4.0, is this rule. This is the golden rule of process control. I mean, I heard about this rule, maybe 25, 30 years back when I got into industrial process control. Is the rule is to be read from right to left. Okay, so point number one, you cannot improve what you cannot control. So if you want to improve something, you must have control over it. If something is wrong, something is bad, but you have absolutely no control it, you're not going to be able to change that anyway. I mean, this can get into a very spiritual discussion, but that's what we all know intuitively, right? Then secondly, you cannot control what you cannot see. So in order to control something, you need to have a handle on it, right? So try balancing a cup of tea on your head, or a book on your head, or walking, or a stick on your head, or walking on a rope. you know it will be doubly difficult, or 10 times more difficult if you are not able to see. And then finally, in from an industrial perspective, you cannot see anything that is they cannot measure. Now, there are several parameters that an organization is judged by. Now, one of the important parameters is, let's say, quality. Now, is there a measure for quality? So quality is a very abstract term. So you don't have a dial, on a dashboard which says quality 235 or quality 502. There's no such thing. There are surrogate parameters which can determine what quality is like, how many customer complaints you get, what is the life of your product, and so on and so forth. But quality itself needs to be measurable before you can actually start seeing it, right? So, and the journey hence has to be in the reverse order. The journey has to be, you need to start measuring first, then you need to start visualizing it, and you need to start understanding for yourself what is happening. And once you are able to visualize, or I mean, this visualization is not necessarily like a technology concept like a dashboard, just see it, okay? And then you can start the journey of improving it. So Siri actually uh, you know takes this approach. This is a fundamental approach, but this is very, very important. And this is one of the reasons why you will see several companies fail, because they put, as we say, put the cart before the horse, okay? So the maturity improvement of process of Siri is to evaluate. First step is to learn. Now, this is very important because everybody in the organization did not come from the same school. They did not learn Industry 4.0 from the same teacher. They did not read the same book. Okay, so they may have different ideas about what Industry 4.0 means, what they want to do. It is important to have a common base of terminology, a common base of expectations, and that is the learn phase. Once you learn and the organization is speaking the same language, then you can evaluate. And learn is very important, because during evaluation, you're going to ask a lot of questions. And if every person in the company understands the question differently, is probably going to give a different answer. And those answers are probably not going to be correct. It is not that he doesn't know, he just understood the question differently. So you evaluate. Once your evaluation is done, here I am. And this is very important. If you have ever gone to a big national park, or if you have gone to a tourist spot, and it tells you, something is here, something is there, there's a map there of the tourist map of that location. And the first thing instinctively that you will do is you will look for a dot on the map which says you are here. If you do not find that dot called you are here, the rest of the map doesn't make sense to you, because you don't know where you are. So you don't know where to go from there. Are you going to the left or the right? So you will not be able to progress on that. This evaluate is that dot which says you are here, and then the rest of the map suddenly starts making sense. Once you do that, this is the architect is your roadmap. Is how do you progress systematically based on where you are, based on your internal perspective, and then move on towards a slightly more mature state. And then, of course, once you architect, it is time uh, to actually deliver the solution and start reaping the benefits. Or if the benefits don't come, then tune the solution, and so on and so forth. So this is the what Siri calls the lead framework: learn, evaluate, architect, and deliver. Okay? So learn is we learn about all the common Industry 4.0 terms. Okay, what these terms can and cannot do. Sometimes people feel that some technologies are magical. So whenever you have a problem, people very sometimes have told me, oh, why don't we put a machine learning model, or why don't we put AI there? It's I mean, in principle, there is nothing impossible, but it is every problem cannot be solved by magic by some of these technologies. So what is the expected value delivered? Some people have bloated sense of what value it can deliver. You need to have a realistic sense. So there are several items that are important when you come to the learn part. Then moving on to evaluate, this is the Siri assessment model. So Siri assessment model, as I showed you in the beginning, it has these three pillars: the process pillar, the technology pillar, and the organization pillar. And under these three pillars, there are 16 dimensions which it evaluates. On a process dimension, how is your vertical integration process defined? So in the process dimension, we are talking only about definition, not implementation. How is it defined? As I said, if you have a bad process, digitizing it will only accelerate its badness. Okay? It's not going to make it a good process. Horizontal integration, vertical integration is how is information flowing from the top of your organization and the bottom and vice versa. Horizontal integration is how is the information flowing between you and your partners, you and your customers, you and your suppliers, you and the market in general. That's horizontal integration. And integrated product lifecycle basically means how well and structured is your product development process. How well structured is the innovation process. So these are the three dimensions. And then on the technology front, these are the 9 dimensions: shop floor automation, shop floor connectivity, shop floor intelligence, enterprise automation, enterprise connectivity, enterprise intelligence. Okay? And then facility automation, which is all the utilities. So, things that are generating power, generating steam, and all that, they are big cost factor, and you need to focus on them as well. So, facility connectivity and facility intelligence. So, these are the 9 dimensions. And then finally, it looks at organization and how is your workforce learning and development structured. How are you teaching your people about all these awesome things? Okay. Then how is the leadership competency? Are the leaders all in sync with each other as to what these technologies are and what they mean and what returns can be expected? How is the collaboration between two companies, which is your supplier and your customer, and between various departments of the company? Because if you don't have this collaboration, then bringing in technology will make things more impersonal, because technology always makes things impersonal, right? So when there is no technology, you just get up from your chair, walk across to the other guy's table and talk to him or talk to her. With technology, you tend to be a little more messaging oriented, and when systems come in, that also happens, so it has to be your inter company collaboration processes need to be strong if you are going to introduce, give a major technology injection. And then what is the strategy and governance? How long term are you thinking? So this is the framework that Siri uses. Okay. So evaluate, when you say evaluate, the output of the evaluation comes in 4 parts. Is they tell you, evaluation tells you how is your maturity on the 16 dimensions. But just knowing my maturity, it's like if you're in a class of 100 students and you get 65 marks, okay, will you be happy or will you be sad? Or if you get 75 marks, will you be happy or will you be sad? You have no idea whether to be happy or sad, because you don't know what marks other people have got. You will be very happy at 65 if you are at the top of your class. You would be very sad at 65 if you are at the bottom of your class. So 65 doesn't make any sense, right? Or doesn't make any sense in the sense it's not useful. Hence, apart from today's state, there is also reference to the broader community. So this model also tells you how you are doing with reference to your peers. So if it's a food industry, then how are you doing with reference to other food industry? Okay. Then it also tells you what is the impact on the bottom line. So how are your KPIs going to be impacted because of any initiative? That it tells you. And it also tells you, gives you a prioritized list of business objectives that you should undertake. Okay. So these are the 4. So this makes this evaluation, Siri evaluation, very complete. It is complete and usable the next day. So you can take it's as they say, it's actionable. Okay? So in real life, I have put some screenshots of a Siri evaluation that I have done. So what it does is I ask questions about how company works. Then I ask questions about what the company's goals, their KPIs, and over what period are they planning to achieve those goals, whether it is planning horizon, whether it is operational, which is 6 months, whether it is which is 1 year to 1 to 2 years, or whether it is strategic, which is 3 to 5 years. And then where is the best opportunity? So we compare their current cost structure and say, oh, raw materials is 38% of their cost. So, well, reducing raw material cost would be a very good opportunity, right? So we make these assessments and pass it through the series model. So this is the series model. So there is acquire the information, do the assessment, pass it through the series model, for all the computation, and then compute the results, and then you have these what are called impact values. I'm just going to show it to you. So this is how a series report will look. It will show you on each of the 16 dimensions what is your rating, 2, 3, 1, and the ratings also have name to understand for you to easily understand that. And then how do you compare with your peers? So you are this blue bar in your space. The person who is doing the worst, it as one worst is at 1. The person who is average is at 1.5, and the person who is doing best is at 3. So you are at 2, the class topper is at 3, and the class laggard is at 1, right? And but the average of the class is 1 point. So you can say, okay, I'm a little bit above average. Okay, so it gives this on all 16 dimensions, and it also gives the industry average. So 1.38 is the industry average. So it gives you not just evaluation of how you're doing, but it also gives you an evaluation of how you're doing comparison, because ultimately it's an ecosystem. So you have to, there's no such thing as good in an absolute sense or bad in an absolute sense. You're all competing in a market ecosystem, right? So you should know how you are placed with reference to everybody else. And then finally, it's a recommendation. So it says that these are the 16 dimensions, and on these 16 dimensions, these are your 4 weakest dimensions. Okay, or in this case, the highest number, which is called impact value. Since these are your weakest dimension, taking action on on these dimensions will have the highest impact. But here also Siri makes it very, very makes it very, it does not, it adheres to its principles. This is process, this is technology, and this is organization. Now if I look at just 4 topmost values, 0.08, 0.07, and then probably somewhere around here, okay, it's not there. But if it happened that this was 0.08, 0.07, and somewhere here was 0.07, this is 7.4, so this was 7.5. So you're not allowed to address all dimensions in a single pillar, because the tendency is to say, okay, let us tackle all these dimensions in the technology pillar, because it's easy in the sense it is straightforward. Everybody knows how to deploy technology. So that is not allowed. You are supposed to take 2 dimensions in the process, 1 dimension in technology, and 1 dimension in organization at a time as an initiative. You're not allowed to take like 4 dimensions here in the, and start just deploying solutions. That is against the principle of C philosophy. So it's almost 50. About 10 more minutes. So what next? So after you get all these dimensions, somebody needs to make sense, somebody needs to map them into solution. Now this is what we do as a company. So we take a dimension, vertical dimension, and if a company is at level 2, okay, or company wants to go at level 2, a MES is a system that will allow them to do it, or a LIMS is a system that will allow to do it. If the company wants to go to level 3, then an IT/OT integration is their answer. Company wants to go to level 4, then RPA or robotic process automation is the answer. So what we've done is we've taken these 16 series dimensions and we have taken the 5 bands of maturity. So we've taken these 80 odd cells and we map them against all the solutions that are available in the market, so that we can make a recommendation as to, if I want to take action here, I don't need to think any further. Okay, here horizontal integration, I want to reach to, okay, deploy an ERP. It is as simple as going through a lookup table. And finally, when you deploy a solution, you're not going to, I mean, some companies do. You may not do single sourcing. You may go to multiple vendors or evaluate multiple solutions. Then what we also do is we do a detailed requirements analysis and then map the capability of that solution against these requirements, and then even compare various solutions or compare various vendors and make a recommendation that this particular solution is value for money. Again, no value judgment. It's not that this solution is bad or this solution is good. If solutions exist in the market and for many years and they're competing well, they're all good. But every solution is not good for every customer. There is a sweet spot, and we try to identify that sweet spot, and we do that by doing this using this Industry 4.0 consulting. So our learn part we do by conducting workshops. The evaluate part we do by conducting a Siri assessment. The architect part we do by creating a roadmap, the roadmap consulting, and the deliver part we do by actual field consulting, front-end engineering and design, and solution development consulting with the customer. So we try to walk with the customer as far as we can. So this is a summary of the maturity evaluation process. Evaluate, start with educate, evaluate, identify the solutions, shortlist the solutions, budget for them, and then implement them. And once you implement them, obviously you can either go to educate, but if the organization is already educated, you can go directly. Now, finally, why should we do this? Okay. First of all, it provides a framework for thinking about maturity. Everybody thinks about maturity differently. Whether it is right or wrong, it is most important to have a common answer. Common answer that everybody understands, everybody believes in. So this kind of evaluation creates that common framework for thinking about maturity. In this case, it will be, okay, where am I on Siri? It's like having a benchmark in your test. Like if you want to apply to a university, you say what is your GRE score. That's the benchmark, right? So it creates some kind of a benchmark for thinking about maturity. Then it creates an organization structure that is aligned with maturity goals. It brings the organization back in focus. So these maturity improvements are not going to be done in vacuum. They're not going to be done based on passions and knee-jerk reactions. Last quarter was bad. Okay, let us bring in this automation so that our next quarter is good. That's, it may be good, it may work, but that's not how you improve the maturity of an organization in a systematic manner. Then it gives a improvement roadmap that focuses on value and logical progression. This is where I say that it prevents you from putting the cart before the horse. It prevents you from putting a solution that you deploy and then you realize that it is not delivering value because it lacks the previous step. People will deploy an AI ML kind of adaptive model and then realize that they lack the data. They have not digitized their data sources, and hence that fancy model is starving of data. So it prevents this from doing this by giving a logical progression. And finally, it provides a solid foundation for budgeting and investment. See, for investment, nobody's going to give you $500,000 just for just because it's cool to put an AI model or or an ML model or an AR VR solution or 3D printing. This model allows you to put everything that you're doing in perspective, and in the perspective of where you're going with it or what will you get out of it. So I think this is very important. And then finally, last slide is Industry 4.0 initiatives are long term. They easily run from 3 to 5 years per initiative. Okay. Overall improving maturity of the organization can be a 10-year goal. Okay. They are super expensive. I have seen initiatives from 300K to 2 million per initiative. Okay. And they are culturally disruptive. There will be people who say, I don't like it, or I don't want it. My life is good as it is. And you can imagine who those people will be being in that industry. So you have to make sure that this is like an augmentative surgery. It is not a surgery to cure a disease. It is augmentative. So you are suddenly you're kind of becoming a uh, you're getting an armor, or you're getting new capabilities in your body. It is that kind of augmentative surgery, right? So now, just as you would not go into any major surgery, okay, without doing a battery of tests. Okay, you're not. In fact, the doctor will not allow you to walk into the operation theater. He sees those test results and to decide whether to confirm what is wrong with you or what needs to be improved is clear, and you are otherwise healthy for the surgery. You wouldn't take that. You have to look at it this way, right? So you wouldn't go to a major surgery without first running a battery of tests. You would you? So that is, I think, the perspective that you need to have in mind when you are embarking on any kind of industry 4.0 initiative. Okay, so that's my last slide. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm a little bit over my budgeted time, but I'm happy to take any questions and hope this was somewhat useful to everyone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Sripad. It was really, really insightful. And we have a first question right away. I think one someone from textile background is asking
Okay.
about uh, since textile business is slightly cost conservative, and the overall automation level in some low cost textile industries or some low cost manufacturing industries is very low. So how do we start from where we have a very, very limited automation or no automation to the industry 4.0 journey, and how this maturity assessment will eventually help them?
Sure. So, it's a very common question. Honestly, if you look at this, you have seen this word, 16 dimensions, and whoever is asking this question, you have seen these bands of 2 and 3 and 1 and 3 and 5 and all that. You haven't seen band 0 anywhere, right? So, you know what band 0 is? Band 0 is cottage industry. Band 0 are the companies that weave baskets. Okay, they are the that rural sector which is purely skill based. I mean, if there will be carvers, wooden people in Rajasthan, very, very great artisans who will carve things out of wood, and you will see them sold in these fairs and some of these markets, right? Not a branded shop or something, like. So that is the cottage industry, making baskets, making hats, making embroidered handkerchiefs and things like that. So remember that every industry's lowest level is that 0. Okay, you have to take up from there, and I'm sure textile industry is quite actually. In fact, I don't have the chart, unfortunately, but Siri actually has mapped the textile industry, because Siri has already mapped 14 industries as to where they are. So the textile industry's maturity on Siri level is already known, and what to do to improve the maturity is also known. So if there is any interest in discussing this, I would be able to throw a little more light with a probably concrete example. But what you say is not a stumbling block. In fact, it is the norm. Every industry will have a baseline state. Yours is whatever it is. Some other industries will be something else. That is point number one. Point number two is cost sensitive. Honestly, this is something that I want to emphasize. There is no industry that is not cost sensitive. No industry will say I have money to throw around. Nobody, right? Everybody is cost sensitive. Even the pharma industry. I worked in pharma industry for several years. I've not seen the pharma industry come and say, "Oh, this solution, I like it. Okay, how much?" they never said that. They say, oh, that much, I see. Okay, let me think about it. No, everybody says that. So don't worry about that. That's quite normal. I don't know whether I answered the question, but Siri assessments will basically, irrespective of your cost sensitivity, irrespective of your current state, Siri assessment will provide a roadmap for a very systematic, improvement in maturity.
Okay, I think let's wait for a couple of minutes so maybe people can ask their questions, or
Sure.
else we can conclude the today's session.
Okay.
So, guys, if you have any questions, please either post. You can post your questions in question and answers section, or you can raise your hands. So, so
By
we
the way, I would even recommend Chetan. Uh, does the do the attendees have your or my email address?
no, we will be sharing mine and yours email address with all the attendees. So here is a
Sometimes
question.
people are just more question on email, and I'm happy to answer. Yeah.
Okay, so I
Yes.
think we have a question
Yeah. Just
from
post the
Kaustubh.
question later on email.
We have a question from Kaustubh. How Siri evaluate the plants with the old legacy processes in the plant?
Yeah, so as I said, Siri evaluates everything from a cottage industry with all zeros here to to a fictitious non-existent company as of today with all fives here. Okay, Siri is an assessment process. Okay, moment it that legacy systems is just one factor in your technology maturity, and see that this is the state in which you are, and it will recommend what to do to go to the next step. So I don't think uh, maturity of the organization is a factor on whether Siri assessment will help or not. It will definitely help. It is exactly it's as the example of a class student, right? I mean, is it completely pointless for a person, for a student who knows he is going to get 40 marks to not, pointless to take the exam? No, unfortunately, that's the problem with our exams, that our exams don't tell you how to improve. Okay, the exams just give one answer called study harder, right? Whereas Siri, on the other hand, has a clear rationale, because the purpose of Siri is not to evaluate you. The purpose of Siri is to improve. Just evaluation is has no value to the customer. I mean, just knowing is pointless if that knowing is not utilized towards improvement. So Siri has the built-in aspect of, and that is why I showed this, right? So these are the dimensions, right? So Siri recommends improve these 4 dimensions as your next step. Then 1 year down the line, you will have another assessment, and at that time the numbers will be different. And then Siri may tell you that, by the way, focus on 1, 2, and 3. Maybe it will tell you that, right? So that is how it systematically tells you what is the next step, and that is why I use the word in this logical progression, right? It recommends a logical progression. See, because it is a jungle, right? I mean, if you look at all the technologies that exist, I mean, if you start right from smart sensors and IoTs and IoTs things to, PLCs, control systems, SCADA, DCS, MES, LIMS, and then go upwards all the way to ERP, then all the ERP applications plus AI, ML, robotics. I mean, it's literally a jungle. This is a way to make sense out of the jungle, to find a method in this madness.
Right. So, Kaustubh, I have enabled your mic. So, if your question is answered, or if you have further questions, please feel free to ask to Sripad directly.
Maybe his mic is muted on his side.
Kaustubh?
Okay. But anyway, I think we can close now. And when Chetan sends the presentation to whoever wants this, we will have our email addresses there. And so my email address is here, report.lale@managistics.in, and Chetan's address also will be here. So we are a team. If somebody sends an email to me, I will forward it to Chetan. If you send it to Chetan, he'll forward it to me. But we will make sure that your questions, any doubts you may have about the Siri model. We are talking about the model itself. If you have any doubts, I'll be really, really happy to answer. No problem.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think we do not have any more questions right now. So I'm glad to that we have almost up to 40 attendees today in for today's session. And as you rightly said, that how we can improve on the technology side after the assessment. So a couple of solutions we will be presenting tomorrow and day after tomorrow after uh, uh, mm, as a follow-up sessions for these things. So I think uh, I'm encouraging everyone to raise your questions. If you have anything, please drop me an email. You already have received an webinar registration link from me, so you already have my email ID and everything. So please feel free, and I would be glad to see you everyone tomorrow for uh, for the session on remote monitoring and how the maintenance management systems work in the industry, and how uh, the solutions from Vistrian are helping various industries to big, have one step forward in their industry 4.0 journey. So thanks a lot. Have a
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody for spending your time, and really appreciate it. Bye.
thanks, Ripad, and thank you everyone for joining in today. I would expect everyone to join in tomorrow as well. And we have some people joining from Mexico as well. So good morning to them. Have a good day to them, and have a good night to everyone who have joined here from India and rest of other world. So thank you. Have a good day, and
Yeah. Thanks
closing
all.
the session.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.